Do you how are you? Did
Oh,
I
I'm
ask?
fine. Huh? Should
I
you ask
want
or did you ask?
did I ask?
You, I did just now.
Oh, good. This happens to me a lot at work because it's "Hi, how are you?" is just autopilot. And so when my coworker
Mm-hmm.
Annika comes
Mm-hmm.
in to work, we're like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And she's like, "Good, how are you doing?" And then she goes in to put her coat away, and then she comes out, she's like, "How are you?" And she every single day this happens, she's like, "Wait, I asked you that already." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm good. How are
Technically,
you?"
but it kind of doesn't count the first time. Like, hi,
No,
how are
it's
you is
just
one word. It's just hi.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
the
And
greeting.
then good, how are
Mhm.
you is one word reply. You don't have to actually be good, that's just what you say. Then when they ask
Yeah.
the second time, you can say how you really are.
Yeah, or like, "What's going on in your life? How the wedding prep is going?" All that stuff. She's getting married.
Mm. I
That's
thought you were
just
asking
that's
that
not,
to
like,
me.
general conversation
Yeah.
topics, and they have to specifically be
I wasn't
getting
sure.
married. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, okay, interesting advice. I'll go with it.
Do you wanna see, what I got for Christmas?
Yeah.
It's just the one thing. The box,
Mm.
but
It's a
inside the
box that says
box
Zeal Sound on it.
uh-huh, it does, and what this is it's, microphones.
Nice.
2 of them.
Oh
The
my
thing is
gosh.
though, because I thought, "Oh, great, I'll just send one to Olivia, and then we can each have one," but the problem is there's only 1 receiver or
Hmm.
transmitter, I guess.
Hmm.
So, you have to,
You have to be in
be
the
in the
same
same
place.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is I will still be good for when we record in the same room.
True. Yeah. Yeah. I did
Mhm.
also get one. So
You
I
did
think we'll be
I see
fine
it!
for
Whoa!
we'll be fine for when we're not in person.
Why are we both, like, so cool? We're, like, professionals now.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. This is a Sennheiser.
Oh my gosh. You know how I had to go to the doctor because I thought I was dying a couple weeks ago?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we paid my bills. I paid my bills, but they don't think so.
Oh, they never do.
No, yeah, so they're
No.
hounding me and they're like, "You have to pay or we're gonna knock out your kneecaps." I'm like, do your worst, you know?
Like I did already, so.
Yeah.
Plus, if you knock out my kneecaps, who's gonna fix them? The doctor? Hmm.
And then
We'll
we're
be
just
right
gonna
back where we
be in the
started.
same yeah, which I guess maybe is what they want.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, how about this now?
No, same.
I'm having the worst day of my life. This is because I spent about a half hour before you called trying I was like,
Hmm.
"Okay, I've got it set up. This is perfect. Like, I won't need to fiddle with it."
Oh, of course. That's what they want you to think. That's how they get you.
Yeah, they got me.
Hello?
So, what was that?
Um, you're still on my screen. I have
Like
no idea. You just were there and
that
you kind of froze. And then I just saw Whitney has entered the waiting room. And I was like,
that was
why though?
so
She's
I
still here. Hello.
here.
What's going on?
You can have good audio or you can have good visuals and you cannot
That's right.
cannot
Yeah,
have
no, you can't both. It's actually
both.
illegal.
And yeah, how dare you even ask? And we're gonna
Yeah.
shoot you and take out your kneecaps and get our money. Because it was actually
Yeah.
the collection people in
I
disguise
think
this
it's
whole
all,
time.
yeah, they're all working together. This goes all the way to the
Mhm.
top.
Do you want to hear what happened to me last night?
Yes.
Okay, it's a really fun story. Basically my dog was
Okay.
sick for the whole night. And he kept like going like he was gonna throw up and he never did. But every 10 minutes or so he'd be like, make that sound that dogs make. And it's
Mhm.
like, ooh, that's not a good sound. You don't want to be making that sound. And so every 10 minutes, I'd like start out of sleep and be like, "Bud, you okay?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm okay." Every time. He never actually threw up, but he would always like,
He would always fake you out.
sounded bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually, after like an hour and a half of this, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like stay on my phone until like the next time. And if he doesn't, then probably he'll be okay and I can just like go to bed. Um, and that also didn't work. I was up until 6 in the morning, basically, is this story. I didn't sleep at all.
Mhm.
Um, and then while it was on YouTube, and a video popped up from my recommended that was an interview with Robert Carlyle talking about his like most iconic roles. And I was like, I've only ever seen
Mhm.
him in Once Upon a Time. Let's get into this. And he was talking about this one movie that he did in the 90s, and the interviewer was like, was it maybe like was it was it maybe like a little gay? And he's like, I hope so. That's how I acted it the whole damn time. And I was like, I gotta see this. Let's like look it up. It's called, what's it called? Ravenous. Have you heard of it?
I don't think so.
I hadn't either. I'd never heard of this movie. Um, but I was like obsessed with it immediately. It's about a military outpost in the mountains in the like the Wild West times.
Okay,
And then Robert
nice.
Carlyle shows up and starts eating people.
Would he do
And
that
that's like the
for?
plot of the movie. Because when you eat people, then you get their like strength and virility
That's
is the
famously
word that he
true.
used several times. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, that is
Yeah.
right.
Virility, man, come on. And the last scene of the movie, they've like stabbed each other a bunch, and they look like they're gonna die, but then the one guy grabs Robert Carlyle by the collar and goes like this, and you're like, hello, in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And then he
Yeah.
like starts pushing him to the wall, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're like gonna go for it. Like, this is the most powerful homoerotic, I'm not even gonna say subtext, it was so overt, I've ever seen. Like, I've seen actual gay relationships on TV that were less gay than what I was seeing here.
Mhm.
And then he pushes them both into a bear trap. And that's like how the movie ends, with them dying together,
Whoa!
like
A
holding each other in this bear
murder-suicide in
trap.
a
And
bear
Robert
trap?
Carlyle,
In a
yeah,
bear trap? I'm
in a bear
sorry.
trap.
Hmm? Oh, what kind? Hmm?
And it was so funny because I went back and rewatched the interview, and he was like, basically, I played this scene where he's like trying to get, because Boyd, the main character, um, is accidentally a cannibal, and Robert Carlyle is like, you should just like go for it. Like, you should just like
On
give in to
purpose, a
me, is the
cannibal.
word he used.
Mhm.
Yeah, give in to me. Come on. Anyway,
Hmm.
he's like, I
Okay.
played this scene like he's like, yeah, I want to eat him, but also like I want to ride him. Like, I want to have him both ways. And I was like, Robert Carlyle, like, sir, he's the only one who gets it, you know?
Yeah.
I've never understood like the like I've seen people talk about it like the romanticism and like cannibalism. Like, I love you so much. Like with Hannibal, you know?
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, but like this, I was like, okay, that's pretty, like, I get it. Anyway, so I watched the movie last night in between my dog retching. And then it was based on a real story, two real stories. And so then I spent like also an hour on each Wikipedia article reading about him. One was based on a guy
Okay.
named John Packer who just ate 5 people
For why?
because he was trapped in the mountains, and he killed them so he could rob them. But then he got stuck. And so then he's like, man, at least I got food. He just ate them. That's
Well,
crazy. So
I mean,
I've been doing a lot of thinking about cannibalism, is
okay.
essentially what.
Great. That's the conclusion. That's great. Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, I think probably we should watch the movie together at some point because it's weirdly funny for like being such a dark
Mhm.
movie. The soundtrack is like kind of circusy, It goes beep. It's like, you shouldn't be doing that. And also, it shouldn't be working because
Right.
it perfectly fits the movie.
Hmm.
It's it was a wild ride, made even more wild by the fact that it was 4:30 in the morning.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
It sounds very interesting.
It was intriguing,
Hmm.
and that's all I had to say about it. But I was very excited to tell you the whole time. I was like, this is either I'm dreaming this and it's not real, or it's going to make a really fun story.
Right. You tell me the fun of this movie, and I'm like, it really exists, and you're like, no, I made it up, and now we have to make it. Like,
Our own personal Goncharov.
yeah, of which we have several, really, to be
That's
fair.
true, we do.
Yeah,
Well, what movie are we going to talk about today?
it's a really great question. I have no idea at all.
I because I did write a paper about several movies this week that we could talk about if we wanted to.
What should we do for our podcast? I can't think. Let me write an essay. um,
It's just a cool 10 pages. I know it's not much, but I just had to whip it out last second.
yeah.
I don't think I could ever be tired of talking about them. I finished the paper and I was like, I don't think I said enough. I turned it in for a grade, and my plan is to go back because I only was able to talk about two of the movies, two of the four that I planned.
Mm.
So my plan is now is to go and finish the paper for me,
Hmm.
not for anything else. Just like,
Maybe you can get it published in like a scientific journal.
maybe did you ever see that one like old rom-com with Hugh Jackman? And it's the lady and she's talking about cows, how men will never go back to the same cow. They always go to a different cow. And it's got Greg Kinnear in it, I think.
No.
No? It's one of the ones that you were like, this is a terrible movie. And I love it. It's
Hmm.
bad, you know, it's not even like a good classic rom-com, but it's like one of the ones that you watched at a really young age and so now it's a part of you.
Mm. I see.
Um, anyway, she makes up a fake identity. She steals a dead lady's identity in order to start publishing her scientific research on like comparing men to like a bull who won't mate with the same cow twice. That's the whole plot of the movie is she like fakes scientific research in order to get published and she like creates this whole fake identity to do this crazy insane not like scientifically based research.
Right. It's just her
Yeah, so
own
I'm
like
saying
personal thought that she's like, "Ooh, that's smart. I should get that published."
yeah,
And then it consumes her life. Interesting.
she would have like she'd do numbers on Tumblr today, you
Yeah.
know? That's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that you had to fake a steal a dead woman's identity to get published way back in the 90s. You can just post for free.
Yeah. That's true. And people might believe you even. Yeah, it's too I think there's a lot of people who just lived um too long before social media that like their lives would have been way better if they could have just like blown off some steam on Twitter or something, and then everyone's crazy on Twitter, so nobody thinks twice about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Oscar Wilde. I think you would have really liked Twitter. Mary Shelley, I think, would be the kind of person who like baits people who mansplain on Twitter, and then she'd just like make them look like idiots. Like that kind of genre of tweet. I think
Yeah,
she
yeah,
would have
yeah.
been really good
She's
at
like
it.
rage bait
Yeah.
posting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah,
like,
she'd be good at that.
actually, the first like science fiction novel was written by this person, and she's like, oh, interesting. I think I am that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we even see that today, like recently, like this week, I saw this. Um, Someone had left an author was describing something that they had written in their book, and someone
Hmm.
left a comment like, "This is obviously taken from this book. Like, you should at least credit the author." And she's like,
It's me. That's
what
so,
more
and
crediting can I do? Like, if I say like, "This is what this passage means," in my book that I wrote. Like, so funny
just
not to
sign the
look at
bottom
the
of every
name,
tweet.
not to look at the username of the person or like go to their profile and see who they are and just assume that they're stealing somebody's writing when they're so obviously the person who wrote it. Yeah. I think she would have a really good time with that.
Well, how's your Christmas holiday been?
Oh, pretty good. We had Isaac over to watch Triple R a couple days ago, and we're all going to
Nice.
see Godzilla tomorrow.
Dude,
Hmm.
we're gonna do an episode on that one for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I asked Neil
How
because he
we were gonna do an episode about Barbie? Still haven't done that.
still
That's been
haven't.
months.
Mm-mm. Yeah, really long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Neil was telling me, he's like, there's a couple new Godzilla movies coming out. I was like, oh my gosh, more? Because they're all like just the same. They're not good, which is
hmm,
fine. They don't need to be. I know what I'm signing up for when I go to a monster movie, and that's to see
yeah,
monsters.
it's Monster. Yeah.
Monsters. Yeah, but I looked it up and I was like, yeah, right. And it had a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, critic and audience score. I was like,
Yeah.
huh?
It's very
Excuse
high.
me?
It's very high.
Really high. Um, and then I saw that it was like made strictly in Japan, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm there. Because that's their thing,
Hmm.
that's their guy. They know how to do him
Yeah.
justice. They know how to like, if
Yeah.
Japan is like, we're making a Godzilla movie, you're like, I'm already there. Like no jokes, no like yes, nothing but respect for you.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah. I I didn't expect to go into it and then come out again like feeling like a different person.
Hmm.
Um,
I think
but that's just how it happened.
it's best when it's not the movie that you expect that has that impact.
Yeah.
Like if you go into a movie knowing that it's gonna like change your life or whatever, that's cool. And it's cool if it does. But it's better to go into a movie not knowing anything about it and then come out fundamentally changed.
That's I think why I liked Barbie so much is because I hadn't seen any of the trailers and I didn't know what it was about. And so when it wasn't just a fun, silly little Barbie movie and it was like an existential question, like what am I here for? What's my purpose? Then I was like, you know,
Hmm.
I went into it just for fun. I would have enjoyed it anyway. But when they're like, yeah, no, we're taking this seriously. Okay. So the two movies that I wrote about in here are Shrek and Kung Fu Panda.
Hmm.
They're both really good. And that's all I said.
Oh, okay. Seems like you could have added all four movies.
Maybe, probably could have squeezed it in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. We could do this like video essay style. I'll just let you have the floor and you can just read what you've said so far about these two movies. And then when you write the rest of it about the other two movies, you can do like a companion piece.
that's fun. Like a sequel.
Yeah, squeakquel
Both of
even.
these movies had a squeakquel. Don't piss me off. So I have a chart here, and I sent this to you, but for I made it so it looks good. Do you see?
Um,
It's a
yeah.
this kind of a graph. Are you all right?
I'll live.
Speak to me.
Can I see the
Okay,
crack,
you also froze at
please?
a really inopportune time. Okay, we're good. Everything is okay again. Everything's okay now.
Did you have a bad dream? Okay, so show me
Yes,
the
but everything's
explain
okay
the
now.
graph.
Okay, so basically what we have up here is change who you are versus embrace who you are, and then over here is focus on destiny or focus on agency. And now when I made this chart, I included two other movies with it, and those are Megamind and How to Train Your Dragon. Both really, really good movies that would fit very well into this conversation. But basically all four of them fit into very different spots of the graph, which is why it was fun because they all tackle the same thing but in very different ways. Like Kung Fu Panda is right over here at the bottom because it's focused on embracing who you are while maintaining a focus on destiny. And that's interesting because the focus is on destiny, but there's a huge element of like choice. Did I say destiny? I said destiny, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
You're doing great. Everything's
thank you.
fine.
It's this is going to be one of the ones that keep me up at night. I think probably.
This episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going poorly so far, I would say. We've talked about nothing.
No, but that's okay because it's the last one of the year.
Yeah, it'll be like
So,
mid-January, but when it's posted, but we'll just say it's okay. This was
eh,
this is the old me.
yeah, pre-New Year's resolution, we've not got there yet. We're working on
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We still have days
Anyway,
to become better people.
and they will be. I'll be 100% different
Hmm.
in what, 4 days? What's
Yeah,
today?
28th.
Something like that.
Yeah, you have until Monday,
Anyway, yeah.
so you'll be fine.
Oh, there we go. Easy peasy. Anyway, so Po the panda, main character of Kung Fu Panda, he is the Kung Fu
I've
in
heard
the
of him.
panda.
Hmm.
You're familiar. He is forced into this situation unexpectedly, some might say accidentally, just through destiny. He didn't choose this, he didn't want it, but because he's here, how is he going to choose to handle it, you know? So his circumstances are out of his control, but his choices and the other characters' choices are what resolve the conflict of the movie, you know?
Hmm.
So they're not, even though I guess what I'm trying to say here is even though the focus is on destiny, the main characters are not passive. They are still active and in control, which makes it way more fun and way more relatable too. Like how many of us are like, man, I can't control anything in my life right now. It's like, okay, but what can you control? What can you change? What can you choose to do?
That's what we talked
And
about in about Labyrinth. That's the main lesson that
yeah,
Sarah learns. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you can't necessarily choose all your situations, but you can choose how you react to them, how you
Hmm.
respond. That's
I'm the
another
master
really
of my
good.
fate, I am the captain of my soul, or, whatever that guy said.
Yeah, that guy.
Whatever,
Whatever.
whoever that was. Who cares? Some old fart.
Hmm. We only care about what I have written here.
Hello.
Give it a second.
Okay.
Everything is so good all the time. I
Oh
was
yeah, of course it
listening.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
super like on top of things right now. Shrek, it was
Aren't we
interesting
all?
because yeah. The other two movies that I had watched had a very strong emphasis on either destiny or choice or both. Um, but Shrek didn't really have a focus on either of those, at least not like over the other one. Um, I went through and I counted how many times they say like choice, choose, and fate or destiny, and Shrek just said both of them once. So there wasn't really a clear emphasis on destiny or agency in Shrek, and so I just kind of put it right in the middle because both are equally emphasized. It's not as important in that one. Like, it's not a main focus, but the emphasis is still on embracing who you are, embracing what makes you different rather than trying to change it. Now, if we were to talk about Megamind, Megamind is interesting because it was one of the four that focused on like being able to change who you are and focusing on like you don't have to be the same thing you always were. You don't have to be what people tell you are. You can change into something different. But anyway, they were all very interesting. It was really interesting to talk about. But that was my chart. Do you have anything to say so far?
I think Shrek is interesting because kind of like it's subverting the fairy tale tropes. So I think it focuses a little bit more on choice because they, decide not to follow these whatever stereotypes are set up for them. But it is interesting that that's like kind of it's a secondary focus from the main one, which is embracing who you are instead of
Hmm.
whatever society has set you up to be.
Yeah, and that was interesting too because the main character Shrek wasn't really concerned about em- embracing who he was. He knew who he
Mm-hmm.
was. He's an ogre, and he loved that. He loved being an ogre. The first 5 minutes set him up to like he's reveling in his life. He loves like eating bugs and bathing in the mud, and it's interesting because he's doing all these things that are like gross, but all in a very civilized way. Like he's brushing his teeth, he's bathing, he's making himself dinner, like a candlelit dinner, and like carefully like cutting it. He's making an eyeball painting. Like all of these things is like, yeah, it's gross and unconventional, but like clearly he's like a peaceful individual.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting because the focus on embracing who you are is not really meant for Shrek. It's meant for Fiona
Mm-hmm.
because Shrek learns his focus is more on like changing who you are, not to like a wild extent, but just enough that he realizes he does need to lower the emotional walls he's built around himself, that he is capable and deserving of love, and that he can have it with Donkey and with Fiona. Like he can have friends, he can have someone who loves him. So Shrek, it wasn't really about embracing so much as just like not running away anymore. Where Fiona was very much you do not have to change to fit the role that you think you're meant to fit in. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
constantly worried about like I'm not princess enough. I need to fit into my stereotype. Where Shrek is irritated that he is seen only as a stereotype. Fiona has like imposter syndrome that she's not going to be seen as her stereotype. She's not beautiful, so she's not a princess. Princess and ugly don't go together. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you see, so it's interesting to have that balance of the both main characters kind of on opposite ends of this struggle and kind of learning how to meet in the middle of it.
There you have it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like when we do that, like it's the Kermit and the Christian Bale?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, it's all I see every time. Yeah. And it is like you were saying, it is like a fairy tale subversion. And the reason it works so well is because they still like stay true to the heart of what a fairy tale is all about, right? It's like finding true love, the hero wins, like saves the day. And even if Shrek doesn't like kill a dragon or anything, do I'm trying to articulate this. You think I would have been able to do it in the paper, but
Mm-hmm.
it changes everything you expect while keeping like the heart of it, keeping it intact, like it's like a perfect reflection of what like all of Disney's fairy tale movies are. Like Shrek is he's cantankerous and he's gross and he's kind of mean. But
Mm-hmm.
none of Disney's main characters are ever really like that. They're like the ideal, they don't have flaws. They're fantastic. But Shrek immediately is like gross and like you still really like him, but it's just so unexpected in every possible way.
Hmm. It's kind of
It's
a
good.
reflection on like what if the fairy tale like plot overall had to happen, but like the people weren't there, and you had to like throw
Yeah.
in somebody else, you know? It's like that
Ugh, what do we
Gale
have left?
Parsons
We have
Bean
an
book,
ogre
um,
and a
The Two
donkey. What?
Princesses of Bamar. Did you ever read that one?
No, you've told me about it a couple times though. I keep meaning to read
Yeah,
it.
it's so good, but it kind of has the same premise where like these things have to happen, and there's like fairies and mythical creatures and like a grand adventure. But the person with like the main character attributes has to stay behind, and someone else
Mm-hmm.
lives out this like adventure. So it's kind of the same thing of like if these certain things like have to happen, but you don't have the right person, like how does this person who steps in become the right person for the task?
Not to do this again, but that is like a little bit Bahubali coded.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Isn't everything? We've been watching this show, this like Chinese drama, and it's been good so far. It's like funny and it's very like um Ian likes to watch it because it's very historically accurate and he learns like new vocabulary that he's like, "Oh, this person used it that way." But you know, he's very
Hmm.
intellectually focused. It's so good. And then in like episode 11 and 12, I was like, we're watching Bahubali. Like, what's going on? It's literally like this person who like comes from a noble family, but wasn't really like raised by them, and so doesn't know a lot of the things that she's supposed to know. But she is an
Hmm.
engineer. Like, that's like her main thing. She loves construction, and she's not very good at reading. Like vocabulary is really hard, but she can read a lot of like battle strategy and like medicine and that kind of thing. You know, she's yeah. So they go, it's like very just like it's
Amazing.
so like Shivu. Like she's living a comedy and then suddenly disaster strikes and she has to like save everybody. It's crazy. I was like, she's Bahubali.
That's
It was so good.
awesome. And that's interesting too, because like it's you can have the same story 1,000 times.
Hmm.
Like a
And
character
every
comes from a
time it's
past that
just
they don't know a lot
Bahubali.
about. Every time it's just Bahubali, and every time it just slaps. You can't.
Hmm.
You have to try really hard to mess that up. There's something about a
Yeah.
guy being in a situation and he knows like they know nothing about what's going on, but like
But they're like, I
you
guess I'll
should.
try this, and it like ends up being their like secret talent that saves everyone and redeems them from their not
He's
knowing
like,
their
I don't know,
past.
man.
And yeah,
What if we just threw a bunch of guys with shields over the wall and we can make a
you
ball in the
just
air?
throw
And
the
everyone's like,
catapult.
and then they land perfectly. It's like, and he's like, yeah, cool, that worked. And everyone else is like shaking, throwing up, like they
Yeah,
shouldn't be
exactly.
alive.
Hmm.
If it
Hmm.
wouldn't have worked if anyone else had tried it,
But
but that guy.
they just have a knack. It just worked. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. That sounds good. What's it called?
Uh, Love like the galaxy. Mom, is that what it's called?
Aw.
We so far have no idea what that has to do with anything that's happening in the show.
There's no
It's not like an
galaxy?
Arrested Development thing where they like, hey, that's the name of the show. So far, that hasn't happened. So we just have to kind of guess, but good.
Oh, I was gonna say also, you said that Shrek is a little bit more about choice. And I agree for another reason, because Shrek is alone because he chooses to be.
Hmm.
He is isolated from society, even from other fairy tale creatures. They're all terrified of him. Everyone's like, ah, big, stupid, ugly ogre, is what they say.
Hmm.
And so he's not like that, but if
But
he
instead of deciding that he's going to go
isolates
out and prove it to
himself,
them that he's not like that, he's like, well, whatever, I don't need you.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're if that's all they're ever going to believe, then I don't need to be anything else. And if I choose to be alone, then it won't hurt as much if people don't want to be around me because I didn't want them around anyway. You know? I'm
Mhm.
perfectly happy by myself. Whatever. And so like you have that choice to be alone until he chooses to not be. And that's good. Hmm.
True.
I like too that Donkey is the only one who's never really been afraid of Shrek. And so he like Shrek is used to be like being able to like puff up and like and people will go running and like scream in the opposite direction. And Donkey's not like that. So Shrek has to actually confront his feelings and his fears and his insecurities. And Donkey forces him to do that. He's like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit. Why are you acting this way?
Hmm.
And it works really well because he's a donkey. He's stubborn. He's not going to give up on this. And Shrek is just he just keeps running away, keeps isolating, keeps withdrawing until his temper gets the best of him, and he finally like is able to open up a little bit. And Donkey knows because he's not afraid of him that Shrek won't actually like do anything to hurt him, and knows that this is going to be best for him. And because he cares about him as a friend, Donkey loves him. He's like, I'm not gonna let my friend isolate himself. Like, let's see what we can do about it. And Don, like, this is similar to the Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where the dumb talking animal friend. They're not just like an accessory in the movie. Like they're driving force behind the plot. Like Donkey
Hmm.
forces Shrek to realize that he needs to change, and realize helps him realize that he can change by accepting people into his life. And Perito in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is like, do you see what I'm saying? It's fun to have an animal, like a talking animal companion,
Hmm.
but like if you're gonna have them there, have them do something.
Yeah.
Like, don't just let them be like a little garnish. Like, this is just for like set dressing.
Yeah,
No,
definitely. This
have
is just
him.
like, this is because this is what they have in fairy tales, so we just have to do it. Yeah. To
Yeah,
make it work.
why?
Why keep him around if he's not going to be important to the story?
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. The question is, which one of us is Christian Bale and which one of us is Kermit?
I have always thought of myself as Kermit,
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I was
and
gonna say I think you're Kermit.
okay, good. I'm really glad we're on the same page. I just don't feel like I have Christian Bale vibes. Like he's like
I don't know if anyone really does, but you know,
he's just yeah, he's very
we
unique.
just do what we can.
The sun has somehow managed to come through the curtains. It just do you see this? Oh, one more thing about Shrek, and then we can move on. Is it is it's fascinating how Shrek and Fiona's relationship develops. And I love their relationship. It's one of my favorite in any movie because it feels very natural. Like they start off butting heads. He doesn't treat her like a princess, which she needs because
Hmm.
she's trying to be like this demure, like classy, elegant, delicate princess, and she's hot-headed and stubborn and bossy and fiery, and that's not how a princess typically acts. And so when Shrek doesn't treat her like a princess, then it kind of helps her to realize like, okay, like I don't have to he'll like me even if I'm not acting like that. And
Hmm.
then she treats him like a person even right off the bat instead of like being afraid of him. She's never afraid of him. And we know why because she's also an ogre. She knows like, man, he ain't shit. But like they meet each other on equal ground.
Hmm.
and then from there are able to be like, oh, okay, like maybe this is, maybe you're more than what I thought you were at first. Um, and I like it too because it's not about appearances. They fall in love with each other because of who they are. Like Shrek, when he's going to confess to Fiona, he says, I got you this flower because it's pretty and you're pretty. But I like you anyway. Like he's not like physically, he doesn't
Hmm.
physically find her attractive. And she's as a, like, it's not about that. It's about like they genuinely learned who each other, like who the other person was and that they work really well with that person. And that's great. And also, one of the flaws there is the overheard miscommunication where Shrek is going to confess and he hears Fiona say, Princess and Ugly don't go together. I can't stay here with Shrek. And he thinks she's talking about him, and she's not, but she might as well be anyway. It doesn't matter that she's not talking about him because she kind of is. She's saying that I'm an ogre. I don't deserve love as an ogre. I need to get married as a princess in order to be like worth loving. And so she might not be saying those things about Shrek consciously, but that's what those words mean. Is she saying ogre equals unlovable? Even though she's referring to herself, that doesn't necessarily matter. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He overhears it and it's painful because it's real. It's
Yeah,
like,
it applies to him, and I think that's a lot of what, um, like the conversation about when you are upset about you have some sort of like insecurity, but then if somebody else had the same features, like would not be offensive to them to be like saying all these things, you know?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you might
And
think, oh, well, that's
also,
not like, I would never say that about you, but like you are,
but you kind of did because you said it about you and like
you.
we're the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think it just shows like their difference in like she has such an idea about the standards of a princess and how life should be, and it's really only that one perspective, but I like that their standards for life and the things that they're looking for are so different that he's like, you're really pretty, but I like you anyway, right? As if that's like
yeah,
on his list of good qualities, ugly would be on there and
yeah,
like pretty wouldn't be, right? So it's really it's just more of an idea of like embracing someone else's worldview and realizing that like, oh, if I don't fit into like this mold, it's not the only thing that's available. I can find something else that fits
yeah,
better.
yeah, for sure. Like what she says at the end, she's like, I I don't understand. I'm supposed to be beautiful after their, true love's kiss. She's supposed to be transformed. She is into
Mm-hmm.
an ogre, a permanent ogre. And she's like, I don't get it. It's supposed to be beautiful. And he's like, you are beautiful because she's ugly.
Yeah, yeah. He's like,
Because
and
he
now
fell
you
in love
look
with
like
her.
me. Like
Yeah,
we fit together.
you're perfect. Yeah. That's beautiful. What a thing to say. That reminds me of the Guillermo del Toro quote where he's like, Beauty and the Beast stories shouldn't be about transformation, they should be about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Like the prince shouldn't have to transform at the end of it. And I just
Right.
feel like he watched this movie in when it came out, 2001, and he was like, they get it. You
Finally.
know?
Yeah.
Someone who
It's like,
understands.
he's never been wrong about anything. And just like things
That's
always
so
come back at
true.
the end of the day to Bahubali, it always comes back to Del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about him this morning to Neil. Because, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard that when he was making Pacific Rim, he refused funding from the military because he didn't want to have them dictate how he should make it. Have you heard
I
that?
think
Is that
so.
true?
I think I've heard of that. I mean,
What a
what a
badass.
ridiculous world that we live in that that would even be a concern, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the channel to get into that, but interesting. Remember how
Yeah.
we always
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about how
right there
much we
with you.
don't like Marvel movies? Hmm.
Interesting.
Probably
There's no
just have
correlation there, I'm
some.
sure.
No. There's plenty of confounding variables, probably.
Okay. Anything else to
Like,
say
are you
about Shrek?
making a film like with your vision and like telling a story that you want to make? Or are you making like propaganda, you know?
Yeah, and how could you possibly tell a meaningful story if you're constantly worried about the
Like, oh, we
military
have to
peeking
cut
over
this
your
out
shoulder?
because it won't like
The only director with any like spine at all is Del Toro.
that's a fact.
Guillermo, if you're listening, call me.
Yeah,
Let's
you're
collab.
welcome anytime. Yeah. Maybe watch some of our better episodes and then you'll feel more inclined to join us. But really, like, you're always welcome.
We talk about you a lot. It's not just this one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, pick a
We
better one.
mean it every time.
It's true. Well, we can talk about Kung Fu Panda if you want, or we can just accept what we have so far. I guess accept is not the right word. Be resigned to what we have so far.
Yeah, we can just surrender to it, maybe.
Yeah. Kung Fu Panda is also good, just in case any of the audience was wondering. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen it for a while, but I remember it being good. So,
I'd recommend it. I've seen it. I said last time, 10 times in a week. And that's another one that has Jack Black in it. It's just he makes it amazing because he's like, sure, I'm an actor, but like I'm a voice actor. Let's get into it. You know, he's not an actor first. He's Poe.
mm, hmm,
Yeah. Hmm.
interesting. I see what you mean.
Anyway, it's good. Why try anything in life?
If there's anything we should take away from this conversation, it's that.
Yeah, don't make an effort.
It's probably not worth it.
Mhm. That seems like a good note to end on.
Yeah, I think so. You know, we always try
Yeah,
to end
if we
with
need something
a
else,
word of encouragement or something, so that's probably as good as
yeah,
any, you know? We're trying to keep
yeah,
you
just a feel uplifting
realistic.
note.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, don't get your hopes too high.
Mm-mm.
Don't ever really
Not
get
worth it.
excited about anything. Nope, because you'll just be let down. Um, Maybe we'll talk about Kung Fu Panda some other time. Hopefully we don't ever have a conversation like this again.
Hopefully, we decide what we're talking about before we start the call. That's always the main, that's often the main issue, right? If
Often,
we've thought
yeah.
about it for more than 2 minutes, it usually goes okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Usually it's all right. Yeah. We didn't even start with the foggiest idea, but
No,
I
not at
talked about
all.
another movie for a while, not this one.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it. Just like you were just recommending a movie to me.
What were you gonna
Bye.
say?
Yes. Oh, I applied to this on their website, a job at a library. And on their website, they're like, we hold everybody's resumes for like 90 days, and then you'll probably get a call back at some point. And I was like, that's a really long time.
90 day, 3 months?
That's like, seems like too long of a time, right? So then it's like, I don't know when to expect to hear back because the lady at the desk was unhelpful and she just gave me a paper that says everything that's on their website that I already knew.
Mm.
Hmm. You'd think it would be like if they have such an influx of resumes coming in that they can only hold on to them for 90 days, you'd think that they wouldn't be advertising that they're hiring and wouldn't have limited their hours recently because they're short staffed.
And if they're so short-staffed, then why does it take them 90 days to pick an applicant? Why don't they just say, we're gonna do this in 2 weeks? Just seems like they're
Yeah,
harming
yeah,
themselves.
that's what I think.
Like,
And also, It's for they have you have to be available at like these hours, and I am available in those hours, but also like if the issue is that you don't have enough people available in those hours, maybe hire two people to work 10 hours a week instead of one to work 20, and then you have more like room to have
Yeah,
people available, you know?
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see. Give me any
Well,
time from today until March.
I mean, I hope you get it. That's also like if you were looking for if you needed a job right now,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
like
Like it
you'd
would
have
be,
to,
it would be nice to know because
yeah,
people
do I
who are
need to keep
applying for
looking or
jobs
not?
usually need jobs. Like, should I? Yeah,
Yeah, usually that's how that goes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's
Well,
been my
that's
experience
silly.
at least. So we'll see.
But again, as we were
Appreciate
saying
it.
before, don't get your hopes up too high,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
guess.
yeah. It's just like we'll see, you know?
Right.
If you see something that you would like really enjoy and that perfectly fits in your schedule and that you're basically qualified for, and they are hiring and they need somebody, um, you know, who knows? It's completely out of your
Mhm.
hands. So what can you do? That's my message.
Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do.
Hmm.
Well, I'm so sorry for this. Thank you for calling. And
Next time will be better, I think.
maybe, there's a line by Little Alcorn. I think it's even in the first season. It might be in the second, but it's right near the start of the show, and they're having like really stilted, weird banter. You know, like the best kind. And
Like
Greg
we
looks at
do,
the camera
yeah.
and he's like, "It's not. It's it's better than this. It's better than this." And Alex says, "I mean, it isn't always." Cool.
Okay.
Bye.
See you next time.